The morning sun was barely up, painting the horizon with a faint orange glow. Ethan wiped the sweat from his brow as he leaned against the worn wooden handle of his hoe. His family's farm stretched out in front of him, rows of corn and soybeans lined neatly, though their leaves looked weaker than they should for this time of year. Drought had scorched the land for weeks, and bills were piling up faster than his crops could grow. At 29, Ethan had inherited the farm after his father's passing. He worked from dawn until late at night, barely scraping enough to pay off the debts that seemed to choke every breath of hope out of him. The farm had been in the family for generations, and losing it wasn't an option in his mind, even if every bank notice suggested otherwise. He glanced at the old red pickup parked near the barn. Its paint had faded, and rust gnawed at its doors. Still, it was reliable. Much like himself, Ethan thought wryly. Beat up, but still standing. As he poured a cup of water from his canteen, he heard the distinct sputter of an engine nearby. His farm was tucked off a quiet country road, and not many cars passed through this way. Curiosity made him look up. A sleek silver car was pulled over on the shoulder, steam rising faintly from under its hood. Ethan squinted, shielding his eyes from the sun. Out stepped a woman, clearly not from around here. She was dressed in a crisp white blouse tucked into tailored navy trousers, and her heels sank awkwardly into the dirt. Her shiny sunglasses looked expensive, the kind only city people wore. She glanced at her phone, tapping the screen repeatedly with growing frustration. From where Ethan stood, he could already guess. No signal. With a sigh, he set his tools aside and walked toward the road. The woman looked up as he approached, her guarded expression softening only slightly. "Car trouble?" Ethan asked, his voice low and steady. She exhaled sharply, brushing a strand of chestnut-brown hair from her face. "It just died on me. I was on my way to an important meeting in the next town, and now—" She gestured helplessly at the car. "It won't even start, and of course there's no reception out here." Ethan gave a small nod. "Phones don't work too well in these parts." He walked around to the front of her car. "Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated for a second, as if calculating whether she could trust a stranger in worn jeans and dusty boots. Finally, she stepped aside. "Please, if you can help, I'd owe you big time." Ethan popped the hood and leaned over the engine, scanning the connections and hoses. He spotted the loose cable almost immediately. "Battery connection slipped," he murmured, more to himself than to her. With a quick adjustment and a twist of his calloused hands, he tightened it back into place. "Try it now," he said, stepping back. The woman slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The car coughed once, then roared back to life. Relief spread across her face as she shut it off again and climbed out. "That's incredible," she said, her tone shifting from stress to genuine gratitude. "I thought I'd be stranded out here all day." Ethan shrugged. "Nothing fancy, just needed a bit of tightening." She smiled then, and it transformed her face. She had the kind of smile that belonged on billboards, bright, confident, and disarming. "Well, I still owe you. I'm Claire, by the way. Claire Donovan." Ethan wiped his hands on his jeans before offering one. "Ethan Miller." She shook it firmly, her manicured nails a sharp contrast to his rough skin. "Do you live around here?" she asked, glancing at the farmhouse in the distance. "Yeah, that's my place over there," Ethan replied. "Family farm." Claire tilted her head, studying him. "Must be a lot of work." He chuckled dryly. "More than most think, but it's honest." For a moment, there was silence between them, broken only by the faint rustle of cornstalks swaying in the breeze. Claire C. "Do you know if there's a bed and breakfast or a motel nearby? I'm supposed to meet someone tomorrow too, and I don't want to risk this car breaking down again on a long drive tonight." Ethan hesitated. There was one small inn in the town 10 miles away, but it wasn't exactly welcoming, and he doubted it would suit someone like her. "There's a place in town," he said carefully, "but it's, basic." Claire laughed lightly. "I can survive basic. I'm not made of glass." Something in her tone made Ethan raise an eyebrow. Maybe she wasn't just another spoiled city woman passing through. "Tell you what," he said. "I'll lead you there with my truck so you don't get lost. Roads out here can be tricky." Her face brightened. "That would be amazing. Thank you, Ethan." As she climbed back into her car, Ethan walked toward his old truck. He had no idea why he felt a strange pull toward helping her further. Maybe it was the way her eyes softened when she smiled, or maybe it was simply the loneliness that clung to him like dust after too many seasons of struggle. Either way, as the engines roared to life and the two vehicles rolled down the country road, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this chance meeting was the beginning of something that would change his life forever. The drive into town was quiet, but in a comfortable way. Ethan's old pickup rattled with every bump, while Claire's silver sedan glided behind him like it didn't belong on these roads. Every so often, he'd check his rearview mirror and catch a glimpse of her focused expression, hands steady on the wheel. When they finally pulled up in front of the little Pine Hollow Inn, Claire parked beside him and stepped out, brushing her blouse smooth. The inn was a 2-story brick building with faded shutters, a wraparound porch, and hanging flower baskets that were valiantly trying to stay alive in the late summer heat. "This is it?" Claire asked, tilting her head. Ethan smirked. "Told you it was basic, but they've got clean sheets and hot coffee in the morning." She laughed softly, and it sounded genuine. "Well, clean sheets and coffee are all I really need." They walked up the porch steps, and Ethan tipped his hat to the innkeeper, Mrs. Carmichael, a plump, cheerful woman who'd known Ethan since he was a boy. "Evening, Ethan," she said warmly. "Who's this young lady?" "Claire Donovan." Claire introduced herself politely, extending a hand. "Oh, a city girl," Mrs. Carmichael said knowingly, giving her a once-over. "You'll be our guest, then?" "Yes, please," Claire replied. "Just for the night." As Mrs. Carmichael bustled away to get the keys, Claire turned to Ethan. "Thanks again for all your help today. I'd probably still be stranded out there without you." He nodded. "No problem. Just glad you got here safe." He hesitated, then added, "Listen, if you need anything while you're around, don't hesitate to ask. Town's small, but people look out for each other." Something flickered in Claire's eyes, something softer than her earlier city polish. "That's kind of nice. In the city, everyone's too busy to even notice if you're struggling." Ethan shrugged. "Different worlds, I guess." Claire smiled faintly. "Maybe not so different as we think." They stood there for a moment in the fading light, an unspoken tension hanging between them. Finally, Claire cleared her throat. "Well, I'll let you get home. You've probably had a long day." "Yeah," Ethan said, though part of him didn't want to leave just yet. "Good night, Claire." "Good night, Ethan." The next morning, Ethan was already knee-deep in chores when his phone buzzed in his pocket. It rarely did. Reception was weak, and few people called him unless it was about bills or farm supplies. But when he pulled it out, he was surprised to see a number he didn't recognize. "Hello?" he answered. "Ethan?" Claire's voice came through, light and slightly breathless. His eyebrows rose. "Claire? Everything all right?" "Well," she laughed nervously. "I hate to say this, but the car won't start again. I think yesterday's quick fix didn't hold." Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose, though he wasn't annoyed. If anything, he felt oddly glad to hear her voice again. "Where are you?" "Still at the inn. I was about to check out when it happened." "I'll be there in 15 minutes, Ethan said. True to his word, his old pickup rolled into the inn's gravel lot shortly after. Claire was waiting by her car, her arms folded, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. Without the sunglasses and the perfectly pressed outfit, she looked more real. "Guess I'm not as tough as I thought," she said sheepishly. Ethan smirked. "Cars don't care how tough you are." He popped the hood again, examining the battery. "You need a new one. This one's about done." Claire frowned. "Do they even sell car batteries around here?" "There's a parts shop in town," Ethan replied. "I can drive you there." She hesitated. "You've already done so much." Ethan cut her off gently. "It's no trouble. Besides, leaving you stranded isn't exactly neighborly." Her lips curved into a smile. "You're kind of old-fashioned, aren't you?" He shrugged. "Guess I am." The parts shop smelled of oil and rubber, with shelves. Claire's voice softened. "That's admirable. In my world, people don't cling to roots like that. Everything is about moving up, moving on." Ethan met her eyes. "And where has that gotten you?" The question lingered in the air until Mr. Harris returned with the battery. By the time they installed it back at the inn, Claire's car was humming again. She leaned against the hood, looking at Ethan with something unreadable in her eyes. "You know," she said slowly, "I was supposed to be in this county for business, but maybe I could stay a little longer, just to look around." Ethan raised a brow. "Business?" She smiled mysteriously. "I'll explain soon, but right now, I think I'd rather see your farm, if you don't mind showing me." Ethan blinked in surprise. The city girl, wanting to see his rundown farm? He wasn't sure whether to laugh or agree, but the way she looked at him, genuinely curious without judgment, made the choice easier. "All right," he said. "I'll show you." As they drove back together, Ethan felt a shift in the air. He didn't know it yet, but this city girl's visit would dig far deeper into his life than he ever imagined. A pair of flat shoes she pulled from her trunk. She took in the farmhouse with wide eyes. "It's, charming," she said finally, though her tone carried a mixture of honesty and diplomacy. Ethan smirked. "That's a polite way of saying it's falling apart." Claire laughed, the sound carrying lightly on the breeze. "No, really. It has character. You don't get this kind of authenticity in the city. Everything there is polished and sterile." He raised an eyebrow. "You call peeling paint authentic?" She grinned. "Well, yes. Every mark tells a story, doesn't it?" Her words surprised him. Most outsiders would dismiss the place as old or run down, but she looked at it with a kind of curiosity that made him see it differently for a moment. "Come on," he said, motioning toward the barn. "I'll give you the grand tour." Inside the barn, dust motes danced in the sunlight streaming through the slats. The scent of hay, oil, and earth filled the air. Ethan showed her the old tractors, the hayloft, the pens for livestock that had grown emptier over the years as his struggles mounted. "It's a lot of work for one man," Claire said softly, running her hand along the wooden stall. "Too much sometimes," Ethan admitted. "I hire help when I can afford it, but most days it's just me. Sunrise to sunset." Claire looked at him, admiration flickering in her eyes. "That kind of dedication, it's rare. In my world, people quit if something gets too hard." He shrugged. "Doesn't feel like dedication when it's survival. Banks breathing down my neck every month, one bad season, and all this could be gone." The weight of his words hung in the air. Claire bit her lip as if she wanted to say something but held back. "Come on," Ethan said after a moment, forcing a lighter tone. "You haven't seen the best part yet." He led her out to the edge of the fields. From there, the land stretched out in golden waves beneath the wide sky. The corn might have been struggling, but the view was still breathtaking. Claire stood still, letting the wind whip strands of her hair across her face as she stared out. "This," she whispered, "this is beautiful. I don't think I've ever seen so much open space in my life." Ethan chuckled. "City's all skyscrapers and traffic, huh?" "Exactly. Out there you can't see the stars at night. Here." She turned to him, her eyes soft. "I bet you see every single one." Ethan swallowed hard. The way she looked at him, like she wasn't just seeing the land but seeing him, stirred something he hadn't felt in years. Later that afternoon, Ethan poured Claire a glass of iced tea on the porch. They sat in old rocking chairs, the wood creaking beneath them. "So," he said, finally voicing the question that had been tugging at him since yesterday. "What exactly brought you out here, Claire? You mentioned business." She swirled the tea in her glass, her gaze fixed on the horizon. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Finally, she sighed. "All right, I guess I owe you the truth." Ethan frowned slightly, curious. "I work for a real estate development company," Claire said carefully. "We're looking into acquiring land in this county to build a resort. Luxury cabins, spa, golf course, the works." Ethan froze, the glass halfway to his lips. His jaw tightened. "So you're here to buy up farmland?" Claire winced at the sharpness in his tone. "Not just farmland. We're evaluating possibilities. I didn't know you'd take me to your farm, Ethan. I wasn't planning." Claire sat on the edge of the bed in her room at the Pine Hollow Inn, staring out at the twilight sky. Her suitcase lay half-packed on the floor, but she couldn't bring herself to finish. Ethan's words from the porch still echoed in her mind. To you, it's just land. To me, it's who I am. She pressed her palms against her face. She had come here to evaluate property, to close another deal, to climb one more rung on the ladder her company dangled in front of her. But then Ethan happened. This stubborn, honest man who worked himself raw for a patch of earth most city executives wouldn't spare a second thought for. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from her boss. Update on negotiations. Board eager to move fast. Investors want clearance to buy before the end of the quarter. Claire typed, erased, typed again. Finally, she shut the phone off and tossed it onto the bed. For the first time in years, she didn't know what she wanted. Meanwhile, Ethan sat at his kitchen table, nursing a cup of black coffee. The farmhouse was quiet, save for the hum of the fridge and the ticking of the old wall clock. Normally, he found comfort in the stillness. Tonight it felt hollow. He had pushed her away. He told himself it was the right thing. Better to protect his farm, his family's legacy, than to risk being sweet-talked by a city girl with an agenda. And yet, every time he closed his eyes, he saw the way she had looked at his fields with awe, the way her voice had softened when she spoke of the stars. Damn it, he muttered, slamming the mug down harder than he meant to. Coffee sloshed onto the table. He grabbed a rag to clean it, his movements sharp and restless. The truth gnawed at him. Claire wasn't like the others. She hadn't mocked the farm, hadn't rolled her eyes at the peeling paint or the failing crops. She had listened, really listened, and it had scared him more than he cared to admit. The next morning, Ethan was out in the barn repairing a broken fence rail when he heard tires crunching on the gravel drive. He stiffened, expecting a neighbor or maybe a delivery truck. Instead, Claire's silver car rolled to a stop. She stepped out, dressed more simply this time, jeans, a light sweater, and boots caked with road dust. She looked less like a polished executive and more like someone who belonged here. I know I probably shouldn't be here, she said carefully, walking toward him, but I couldn't leave things like that. Ethan set the hammer down, wiping sweat from his brow. Claire. He shook his head. I don't know what you want me to say. Just hear me out, she pleaded. Yes, I came here for business, but what I've seen, what I've learned from you, it's changed things. I thought this land was just a transaction. Now I see it's alive. It breathes through people like you. Ethan searched her face, looking for signs of insincerity. Instead, he saw only raw honesty. You're good with words, he muttered. I'm not trying to sell you anything, she said quickly. I'm trying to tell you the truth. I don't know what I'll do about my job or my company, but I do know this. I don't want to hurt you, Ethan. Not you. Silence stretched. The wind whistled through the barn slats. Ethan's chest tightened with conflicting emotions. Anger, hope, longing. Why does it matter so much to you? He asked finally. Claire hesitated, then stepped closer. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being part of a deal. You became someone I care about. Ethan's breath caught. His instinct screamed at him to stay guarded. But another part, lonelier, hungrier, ached to believe her. Before he could answer, the sky darkened. Heavy clouds gathered on the horizon, and a sharp gust of wind rattled the barn doors. Ethan looked up, frowning. Storm's coming. Within minutes, rain slashed across the fields. Thunder boomed, and the two of them scrambled inside the farmhouse as the storm raged. Water pelted the windows, and the